Okay, so we are resuming Commission hearing number 1, the case of Dorothy Chang Him et al. Before we start calling our next witness, I just want to note there are some members of Davidson Chang Him's family that are not residing in the Seychelles. They are living in Canada. One of them, Harry Adrian, has filed his own case in relation to his kidnapping. There is also Judy Dingwell and another lady, Mona Pritchard, who unfortunately, due to some communication problems, we've just received an email that they have not heard from the Commission. Now, the Commission has been in touch with them, and I just want to make it very clear that when we're hearing a case, it's not as if we're just going to hear the case about Davidson Chang Him this week and then we will never take any evidence about it again. We will take evidence as it comes in. We have written to those family members. We do want to give them the opportunity to be heard, and we will be following up with them. One more thing I do think I should say is I would like to congratulate our staff for their very hard work in bringing us to where we are today. We have a very small team of staff, and I would like to thank them for their commitment. And now I would like to hand over to my Vice Chair. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming back. We are here now with this Truth, Reconciliation and National Unity Commission. And in the audience, I recognize Mr. Barry Laine, who has been very instrumental in bringing that concept of truth, reconciliation to the minds of the people of Seychelles. And I would like to call on you, Mr. Laine, if you don't mind, to come up and say a few words about the work you've done.
Hello, everybody. It is for me indeed a great pleasure to be in this room with a commission that has already been formed. For the last nearly 2 years, I have worked hard, I have called for one, I have studied 51 countries to make sure and documented everything that I researched, to make sure that when the time comes that we have to hold our own truth and reconciliation hearing, that we do it the right way. And I'm pleased to be here today and to say thank you to all of you. At long last, we have got a commission that's up and running. It is visible, which is what a lot of people are saying. It is working quite fast, which is what we would like it to do. And I'm here to thank all of you. And it does mean that when there's something wrong, I will not write about it. Of course I will. But on the whole, we are on the same ship, aiming for the same island and the same freedom. And I ask every Seychellois, I was not here during the coup d'etat. Probably if I was, I would have been a militant and I would have been in prison. But I was not here, so I am learning everything from people who are telling me stories like they're coming here to tell you stories. So I am a little bit independent in that I have no particular views. The only view I have is that we should have the truth, and from the truth we can move on. I believe there is a need for our nation to start a new chapter in its book of history. We put this one behind us, hopefully, and then we open up a new chapter. If you look at other countries and the troubles that are going on in other countries, we are a peaceful nation, very peaceful, very tolerant. And this is the way we would like to keep it. Even though people do harm to us, we bear it, we move on. But those who have to not pay for it, but just say sorry. We all make mistakes, we're all human. just say, sorry, I made a mistake, and therefore forgive me, and let us move on. So thank you to the panel. Thank you to everybody who's here today for this wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Laine. So I think we can now call the next witness. Could you call the next witness, please?
Okay. The second witness is Mr. George Lefevre.
Thank you, Mr. Lefevre, for coming today before the Commission. The Commission has received a written statement from you regarding matters that were told to you with respect to the coup d'etat of 1977, and we thank you for that statement. And we've called you here today to give us what evidence you can in relation to the death of Davidson Chang Hiem for the record, and also the circumstances surrounding the coup d'etat of 1977 that we've had the benefit of your statement on. Thank you, please.
Okay, my name is George Lefevre. I remember the 7th of June 1977, and at about 6 o'clock in the morning, one of my workers came over to my house. His name was Raoul Albert, and he came in my pickup, a Datsun 1500 green, and he was hooting the horn, and I came out, and I said, hey, I've got a daughter sleeping, a baby. And he said, oh, we have taken the island. There's a coup d'etat. Albert René has taken it over. And there's all the gun I'm taking to exile in the back of the pickup, and there was a cover. And I look at the gun, and then I said, well, we're not working today. I'll see you later. I said, who's paying for the fuel of my pickup? He said, oh, we're going over there at the PWD, we just fill it up. Anyway, around in the morning, at that time, about 9 o'clock, Pat Confé came over to my house, which he stayed on top of the property across the road. And we were working and cleaning up in my stores. And about 11 o'clock, I heard a vehicle coming, and we looked through and we saw a Land Rover, police Land Rover, with inside was a bunch of people in guerrillas uniform, and I said, oh my God, where did they get those uniforms? And then in it was Philippe Dauphin and a guy by the name of Jamaican, and the son of Dr. Ferrari on the back with a gun, Jean-François. And they went to, later on, I found out they went to Son Chang Him's place, and they were looking for him. And then they went back because the people came and told me they were looking for Son. And later on, about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, someone told me that Son is being killed at the police station. Anyway, there was the curfew and we couldn't leave the house. And when the curfew came, we could go and buy some food. We went around town, and I had a few chicken at my place, and that's what we ate. And we had some food in the deep freeze. And after, I think about 2 weeks, we were allowed to go to work. And when I went back to work, I was doing a project at Intendance. there was some of my guys did come to work, and I thought maybe something happened to them. And then one of the guys came over, and I said, "Where's Dede Bonham?" He said, "Oh, he's at home. He'll come in a week or so, and he's not doing too well." So the day came when Amédée Bonham came back to work. And I said, "Hey, how are you?" And he said, "Oh, bourgeois, I need to talk to you." And he told me of the coup d'etat. He told me that every month they had meeting at Exil at Albert's place. And that day was on a Saturday, and they were picked up by James Michel in a 160Y Datsun, which was a yellow and top white. And there was 6 other people with them in the car. When they were about to leave, James Michel said to him, he said, "Where can we buy some La Tristaba, which is a rope made to make tobacco thing for, at that time, for people to smoke?" And which my father was always planting on his plantation. And so they got in the car, they went to Govindan at Swallow, and then they left for Exil. When they got there, he told me, because he had high blood pressure, and there was, he couldn't believe the amount of people with guns playing with it. And anyway, they came out of the car, and Albert told them, "If you guys are not going to be in the coup d'etat, you have to stay here all night, and then you can leave in the morning." And his job, suddenly Dr. Ferrari came. He gave them all an injection, and when they got the injection, they thought they were animals. And they went downtown the day of the coup d'etat, about midnight. And when they got there, his job was to tie up anybody around the clock tower or to the lamppost, whoever was giving hard time. And anyway, he said about 3 o'clock in the morning, the town was so quiet, there was nothing moving in the town. Everybody had run. And about in the morning, they came, gave them coffee and everything and whatever. And his job was to go and look behind the police station where there was a guy by the name of Gokonso used to clean cars. And he was there till about 3 o'clock. He heard a noise in front of the police station. And when he heard the noise, and he went to have a look. And when he went to have a look, he saw Son arguing with Dauphin, who used to be good friends. And anyway, Son told Dauphin, "Okay, what you're doing, the Queen will send his troops over here. I was in the English army, and you will see what will happen." Anyway, Son was about to leave when Maxime Ferrari was sitting on top, going up the step, and Dauphin looked at him and he said, "Basely," means get him. And anyway, this guy, he was so scared that he never seen somebody being killed. And he told me, he said, "My feet carry me." He walked all the way from there to up La Misère, and whenever he heard a car or something coming, he jumped in the rigole, which is the gutter, or in the bush, and he walked all the way to Anse-Lamouche through Grantas, and he walked up to the top where he lived. I forgot the name, it's been such a long time. And he had a little house up there, and he also had a little shop. And he told me he never went back. He never. And one day I came here after 17 years. I was with David Pragasen, who was a good friend of mine, and Wally, who was one of the president aides-de-camp. And I said to Wally, I said, do you remember a guy by the name of Amédée Bonhomme, big guy? He said, oh yeah, I saw him. I remember seeing him the day of the coup d'etat, but that was the last time I ever saw him again. Anyway, since then, I left. And everything was going good with my business. And one day I went to England. And while I was in England, I met Joa Wawo. And before that, I was arrested twice. One time, they picked me up about 6 o'clock in the morning at my house, Belom. And when I was interrogated by a group of policemen, and there was all kind of recorder, and I thought first I was being recorded by Gestapo. And anyway, they asked me all kind of questions, and then they asked me, do you know a guy by the name of Alex Pierre? I said, of course I know Alex Pierre. He's the superintendent, he used to be the superintendent of police. And he said, well, did you ever say that he should have been the chief of police? I said, maybe I did, I don't know. Maybe I was drinking, I might have said it. Anyway, and they told me, go and sit outside. And when they came and sit outside for a while, and then they say I can go back home. I said, well, you picked me up this morning. I think you ought to take me back where you picked me up. So anyway, they sent a minimook to take me back. And later on, I saw Albert Philibert and I was a very good friend, and he used to give parties. There was a cocktail party, and Albert came, and all his guys came. And suddenly Albert turned to me and said, hey, George, how are you? I said, what? Now you tell me how I am when you got me arrested? And he said, look, I didn't know anything about it. I said, well, you know, maybe my house is bugged, maybe everything is bugged, but I know when I go to bed with my wife, and I know you knew about me being arrested. And by the way, I employ a lot of people, and I cannot swim to Africa. Before I get to St. Anne, maybe a shark will get me. Yes, I was very arrogant in many ways in my life. And then one day, James Pillay came to see me at my house. And he told me, George, I said, you want a whiskey? Because we used to drink together, we were good friends. And he said, no, let's go and sit on the beach. So we went and sit on the beach. I bought a bottle of whiskey and ice. And then he started telling me, he said, you know why I came to see you? And I said, no, not really. You always come and see me and we talk. He said, I'm asking you, why don't you leave the country? I said, I'm not leaving the country. Albert told us we were free on the 5th of June. And anyway, later on, I had to take a trip to pick up parts for my equipment and my trucks and machines. And I was walking in London next to Piccadilly, and there comes Joa Wawo and Paul Chow facing me. And we went to school together, me and Joa. And I said to him, Joa, why don't we go and have a drink and I'll buy you a meal? And so we went and we talked. And when I was leaving, I gave him a donation for the cause. And next thing he said, give me your phone number. And I was in Germany, Munich. And so we talked a few times. Then one day, my brother I'm talking to in Australia, I said, George, did you talk to Joa Wawo? I said, yeah. He said, did you tell him anything? I said, yeah, we talked about a lot of things. Because I knew everything that was going on the Seychelles. I was like a snake. I had a lot of friends. And so I told Gerald what was going on, and next thing, I knew about 412, so I thought I've heard what happened to Kathleen Mason before I left, and because they're good friends of ours, and so I decided not to come back. So I went. I went and lived in exile. But I was a hard worker. I made it in America. I know what life is. For me, the worst part, I had some money I could start up, but a lot of Seychelles was hurt living this island. And I know, I don't care what anybody says. I'm only telling the truth. I'm 72 years old. I lost my best part of my life from this country. And today I see people who had nothing, like Joel Bay had nothing, like Vijay Patel. I had big business. I lost my life, I lost my business, I lost my dignity. And being lived in America, yes, I made a lot of friends. But to live in exile, don't know when you're getting picked up. But I had two girls. I had to give them an education. My parents raised me good. My father worked hard all his life. Brought up 14 children. And we were very disciplined. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. I hope one day this country come back to the country that it used to be. And I still love my country. Even I'm living in Costa Rica now. And I just want to tell the world about what happened to the Seychelles. Got robbed of their inheritance. And I was robbed out of my business. They took my garage. They took everything from me. I just hope all these people who made people suffer get their part one day. That's all I can say. And long live Seychelles. Thank you. And I still see a lot of my workers who used to work for me, and very happy to see me. I train a lot of people. I love my Seychelles people. Today we see only Indian working in this country. The Seychelles is gone of the good days, the hard working. Thank you very much. I'm very happy that today I had the chance to open my heart and to tell the truth about this country.
Thank you very much. And I realized it was difficult, to talk to us, but we, greatly appreciate it. And I think we do have a case coming from you, which we will hear later in relation to what happened to you. We heard from Maxim Ferrare this morning, Dr. Maxim, and I just wanted to ask you, this question, I think, which we explored a lot with him this morning about the injection, giving the injection, which he denied, that he did that. So I just wanted you to know that had been put to him and he denied that he had given the injection. I also wanted to know, when you spoke about the car looking for Davidson Chang Him, you said the son of Ferrari was also in that car, or did I?
Yeah, he was in the back of the pickup.
Okay,
in the Land Rover.
Okay, back of the Land Rover, because he might be somebody that could help shed some further light.
I'm somebody I remember everything.
Yeah.
I'm not senile yet.
No, you don't seem at all senile. Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you so much for sharing the pains you have endured during this section of your life. When you shared in your testimony with us now about Dr. Ferrari giving injection, this morning I questioned him about this. Do you have any proof of people who receive injections? Do you have the names of people who received these injections, so that eventually we can go to them and to have them confirm whether we were talking about pills and injections? There was a testimony by a police officer saying that Mr. Philippe Dauphin eventually killed Davidson Chang Him.
Yes.
And then one evening they were together at l'exil, but he could not maintain the sequences of the day. He was not sure whether everything happens according to reality. So it seemed as if maybe he was drugged, and after the effect of the drug, he was no longer aware what has happened. Is it any possibility for you to maybe in a testimony, in a statement, to give us some names so that we can go in details?
The only person I know, and I know a few people I can find out, that knew Amédée Bonhomme, that's all. And one of them had already told me he's prepared to certify. His name is Mr. Niken, which I've given his phone number. And I've got to ask some of my old workers that used to work for me, and I haven't seen a few of them, and ask them if Amédée had talked to them about it. And I know some of them is dead. And that happened 1977. Today, we are almost 2020, And all I can say is what Mr. Bonhomme had told me. And I had to get it out of my chest. And I've lived with it all this time. And don't think it's been easy for me. And I think, like I said, the best time of my life, I had to move away from the country I love. At that time, I was in charge of North Island, which was like my own island. I could go fishing, diving anytime. And I was even in charge of Lignon estate when Albert came and took it away. And Pat Lablache was there for me to sign that they're taking it. And I remember a lot. And I've seen a lot. And to go through what happened, and I had to leave my country and go and live in exile. And I was lucky to end up in Houston, Texas. And then there was also a case where I knew Father Chantal very well, and I used to go and visit him when I was doing the work at Intendance. And he told me that the day of Francis Rassel's funeral, Ferrari came there with his gun and told him that he had to go and perform the funeral of Francis Rassel, you know. And he said to me, ce cochon, excuse my word, and with Chevalier du Pape, il fait moi, hein, il même met son fusil en moi. So that's the only thing I've got to say that I know.
Can I just ask you a question about the killing of Davidson Chang Him? There's two narratives. One is that it was an accident, and it happened when Davidson Chang Him came to the police station and tried to take a gun off of Dofi. The other narrative is hands up, and he was shot deliberately in the back by Dofi, who'd been looking for him all day and who had arrested his son and put his son in the police station as a means of luring Davidson Chang Him to that police station so that he could
To my
kill him.
honesty, Mr. Bonham told me that son, which I call him son, I was brought up, they're about the same, they're much older than me. I come from Saint Louis, and they used to go passing my father's place to go to school. And I was told that son was going out of the police station. I don't know if he had his hand up. And when he was going out of the police station, that when they shot him in his back. And that's when the bullet went and pierced Dr. Ferrari's car. And it hit the car around somewhere next to the door. And when my experience, I've seen a lot of shooting in Texas, and when you shoot somebody from the back, the bullet can go and hit a car or anything in the front a bit lower than you hit on the human being, you know. I mean, today he talks different than what he used to. I've seen him even put his gun when he took a piece of land from me on his desk in front of me, you know. He thought he was Clint Eastwood. Make my day.
From your friends and your co-workers, would you say that Mr. Ferrari was highly involved in the coup and the aftermath of the coup?
Of course he was. He used to be, people were scared of him too. Everybody was scared of him. I was scared of him when he took my land at his office. Everybody on this island was scared. They arrest you like anything and throw you in jail and give you rubbish food too. I remember what Robert Fisher told me when one time after I'd gone to Australia and met him. It was wrong. Everybody was wrongly treated. And even Bernard Rasoul, when he got fired as the Attorney General, because he told Albert, he said, you know, I will never call Albert President Albert. He was a rogue. He even told Bernard Rasoul because Bernard told him about the time the uprising of the army. He said, I want to know how many people have been killed, because United Nations will want to know. And he told Bernard, you don't have a job anymore. And the next day, Bernard was looking for a job. He ruled this country with an iron fist. I'm not scared to talk. I've lived my life. I'm 72. If they put a bullet in me tomorrow, I don't care. But I'm telling the truth, nothing but the truth. And a lot of people need to pay for all these things.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, you know. I mean, part of, you know, the whole concept of this commission is that we will get the truth, people will tell the truth, and then we will reconcile people as a result, you know. Victims will know what happened, they'll get closure, perpetrators will take responsibility for what happened, they'll ask for forgiveness, and we'll be able to move forward. It's tough, right? I mean, I have to say, Dr. Maxim Ferrari was here this morning, very willing to help us. And he did say, I think at the beginning of his testimony, that he was an aider and abetter of the coup d'etat because he was involved in it. So he admitted that he was involved in it. And he did ask for forgiveness, you know. And I think I just don't want us to lose sight of our objective, you know. And I know it's difficult because people have been very deeply harmed. But we are trying to bring people towards a healing process. And so perpetrators that come forward to us and admit what they've done, full frank disclosure. The Act says they shall be given an amnesty, full frank disclosure, but also sincere apology. It must be sincere, you know, they must be ready to take responsibility. And I don't know, you know, listening to you, how that would impact you, do you think? People coming forward, the people that harmed you, coming forward and saying, yes, we did this and we did this. Because what we've heard in this short period of time is that people were afraid, you know? People were not courageous. They were very afraid. So I'm just wondering, you know, because we're concerned about everyone as an individual, and you as an individual, how would, you know, it help you? That's my question, because I can see how deeply you've been impacted.
You know, for example, the day that Gilbert Morgan disappeared, we had met at the Pirates Arms. There was myself, Richard Ernestine, Ben Shopee, and James Gimmel. We were drinking there, and later on, we ended up at the TRNUC restaurant. And next thing, we ended up at his house where they were playing cards. And that night, I left Gilbert at his house. And the next day, I was going to my business in Intendance, and I saw his car on the road. And I said, my God, because he had told me he had a girlfriend at the Reef Hotel. I said, he didn't go home. And that night, I was going back to home, and I saw a bunch of policemen in the mangrove with police car, with, with dogs. I didn't know what happened to Gilbert until the next day I was going to work, and Salespool stopped me next to Paradis des Enfants. And he said, George, what happened to Morgan? I heard you were the last one to see him. I said, no, I left him home that day, you know. And that was the last time I heard of Gilbert Morgan, you know. And he was a very nice guy, a good friend of mine. And, you know, the Seychellois people were friendly. Even when we went to school, we shared an ice cake together. We didn't have money, but we were good to each other. You know, that was the way the Seychelles was. You know, you pass at somebody's place, they'll give you a plate of food if they were eating. It didn't matter if it was a bouillon bread or what. We live in harmony. I lived in Australia for a long time. I was glad when I came back home, started my own business. Be happy. They took my happiness. They deserve something. A lot of people suffered. You know, like Achi Wenyam, Dominic Wenyam. He's a very good friend of mine. He was in charge of the investigation. He ended up in Houston, Texas. One day, I went to eat in a restaurant. We went to school together. He was very educated. And who I see serving the people at the table was Achi. He felt very backward, you know. And I went to him and I hugged him. I said, it's okay. Life is good. You're working. You're paying your bill. You're not asking anybody for anything. It's okay. And we're still corresponding. I've got his phone number all the time on WhatsApp or what. I talk to a lot of Seychelles people all over. England, Europe, Australia. And I'm really glad I retired and I'm here to talk about people that suffered.
Mr. Lefevre, I just wanted a little bit more sort of detail of what you did here. That, like you said, you had your own business, and you lived at Belombre at the time. And what was your business about?
I had a car rental.
Okay.
I had a big garage, brand new, built at Saint Louis. Mm-hmm. I had 5 big Leyland trucks. I had big drag line, bulldozers, backhoes, everything, compressors.
Right. And you said you also worked at Intendance.
Yeah, I built the road to Intendance.
I was building the road, okay.
I was doing work for Peter Sellers and George Harrison. I've still got their pictures in my phone.
Okay. Thank you. It's just to clarify.
Mr. Lefevre, or should I call you George, because we go back a long, long way.
We were at the boarding school together.
Yeah, years ago.
We were disciplined.
Yeah. But we now come at an impasse in our lives where, as you know, I've been down the same road you have been.
We even met in America.
Yeah, both of us in exile. But I've come back here and I've been able to put it behind me. And I've found that putting it behind me has taken a weight off my shoulders. It's made my life lighter, easier. I enjoy the simple things of life much better than if I were sitting down and worrying and being bitter. And so, as an old friend, all I can do is tell you what I've done. We've done lots of good things together. We've done lots of I wouldn't say bad things, but a lot of naughty things. We've broken a lot of rules of the boarding house. But maybe we can get together on this one, and I would ask you to try and see in your heart to be able to put it behind you?
I think after today, I'll be able to put it back out.
I'm glad
After
to hear
today, what I've talked, I got it off my shoulder. And I think now that I'm living in Costa Rica, maybe one day I'll come home. Why I went to Costa Rica is because to forget a lot of things. And I'm glad that I came home. I saw you, I saw everybody, you know. I've still got a lot of friends
I'm glad you
everywhere I
came
go.
back.
And I thank you.
And we'll get together as usual.
Yeah. We'll have a drink next time.
Okay.
You don't drink. I don't drink so much anymore. I've had open heart surgery.
Well, thank you so much for coming today. Thank you very much for the statement that you also gave us. I know we're going to see you again because we have your own complaint that we will deal with, but thank you for the evidence that you gave us today. And I think, you know, it was difficult for you. You did it. I think you're an example to other people, you know, to come forward. And I do hope that you were telling the truth when you said to Michael you feel better.
I appreciate everything you guys took your time to give me to talk.
No, it was,
And
thank you.
I remain to the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate your willingness to come forward. I think we don't have any further witnesses today, so that concludes today's session. Tomorrow morning, we will be in closed session until 1 p.m. We will be hearing the family members, some of the family members, those that are here in the Seychelles, of Davidson Chang Him. They would like to be heard in closed session because of the emotional, you know, impact on them of talking about these things, and the Commission has granted that request. Then at 1 p.m. we will resume our public hearing with Bishop Chang Him. We will hear him in public session. But thank you very much. Thank you being
I
our
haven't
last
seen
witness.
him. I hope I can see him before I leave.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So we're adjourned for today's session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for attending today's session. And like the chairperson has said, we will meet tomorrow morning for closed session in regards to the Chang Him case. And for SBC and other media houses, I'd like to thank you for your presence here. And also, we'll meet you again tomorrow at 1 p.m. for the public hearing with Bishop Frank Chang Him. Thank you very much. Our session is adjourned. We'll see each other tomorrow. Thank you.